What happened? Hello, everyone. And today's walk is about and being alone. You can feel alone in a crowded room. You can feel alone and isolated with 1,000 people around you because that comes from the inside. And often we kind of forget that there are people around us who we really matter to. They forget that sometimes we forget that we're not an island, that we're not alone, especially in those times when things aren't working right, especially in those times when, maybe we feel like we're not able to do something. So for those times that you're feeling alone, for those times when you're feeling like you're really not giving too much to the world, and we all have those times, this is for you. I recently went through a kind of a hard time myself. I had a lot of things that were weighing very heavy on me. And I really wasn't clear. I mean, and I know, everybody would say, no, you make a difference. You make a big difference. And I appreciate that. I really do. But there is times when everybody, including me, wonder if they're making an impact on the world, wondering if they're doing enough, wondering if maybe it isn't, enough to help out in what little way I am. Even I feel like that sometimes. And I was feeling like that recently. And I was kind of stewing over some stuff. And I went into a grocery store near where I live. Now, every morning for the last several months, probably almost a year, I get up at dark 30 and take my dog Sam out for a walk. And we'd walk down this little back road that would, it sort of ran parallel to the main road that I live on. If you can say any road up in the Santa Cruz Mountains is a main road, but it's one of the main thoroughfares. And just down this little quiet street, and people lived up there and people would drive by. And so, for almost a year, when somebody would drive by, I'd pull Sam off to the side because I figured that it was easier if somebody was driving past me if I wasn't moving. So I'd stop and I'd pull back and pull Sam off to the side so they could know that they had a clear shot, and I'd wave and I'd smile. Well, this had been going on for a really long time. And during that time, I felt very alone. And it was a quiet time, but it wasn't a bad alone. It was a really good alone, because I would watch the sun come up. It would be just faintly light, and then the sun would come up, and, and I'd experience the beginning of the day in this wonderful quietness with just a few occasional cars going by. Well, as I said, recently I was going through some stuff that was kind of weighing heavy on me. And I went into the grocery store, and it's just like, not even a big brand. It's just like, this little market. And there was a gentleman who was, ringing people up. And he looked at me and he said, "I know you." And I looked back at him and he said, "You're the one who walks her dog every morning." And he told me that he used to know whether or not he was late for work. He said he knew if he saw me, then he was running a little bit late for work. And a couple of people had mentioned that to me. It's like, "Oh yeah, I see you walking." But then he looked at me and he said, "Well, then I didn't see you at that time, and I was worried about you. And I wondered if you were okay. And then I saw you walking later." Now, in our area where we're at, there is a mountain lion, slight mountain lion problem. As if anybody could say a mountain lion problem is slight. Well, there is mountain lion activity. And one of the times that they hunt is in the early, like just that pre-dawn time. That's when they're kind of finishing up their hunting. So when they're active, it is kind of dangerous to be out there at that time. So I decided that I would start walking later. Well, I was thinking, it's like, this person doesn't even know me. And he asked my name. He said, "Hi, I'm Corey." And so I shook his hand and I told him my name was Ayleen. And it was really nice because here's somebody, and he goes, "And I want you to know, you may not be able to see me in my truck, but I always smile and wave back. And it's really nice that you smile, in the morning. It's always nice to have that first smile of the morning." And I thought, oh, wow, that was really cool because, I didn't realize that it was so significant for somebody that I smiled and waved. And so he said, "Well, now I know who you are. Now I know." And he smiled. And after that, I was really struck by how fundamentally my feelings shifted, my mood shifted. I was no longer dwelling on that little petty stuff in my head, but I was thinking, wow, I mattered to this person, at least enough that he was worried that I was okay. And I don't believe in coincidences, honestly. I really don't. I have had too many cases where something happens and it seems like, nope, there is no way that this is just random universe stuff. But I was walking along this morning and I was thinking about that conversation that I had with Corey. And I was thinking, wow, I wonder if that was just him or if it was anybody else, or could it have just been a coincidence? Well, within seconds after considering that thought, as a car was coming by and I went off to the side and did my smile and wave, the car slowed down and stopped next to me. And a young woman rolled down her window. She said, "Hi, and I see you every morning walking your dog. And I really think that's cool. And you changed your time, didn't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I changed my time. I'm walking a little bit later." And she goes, "Oh, okay, because I missed you. I missed seeing you." Now, this is two in a row. And they were, right next to each other. And it was like, wow, I'm being observed. I'm being noticed. And I'm being appreciated by people who have absolutely nothing invested. They had nothing invested in taking the time to pull over and stop and speak to me, or for Corey to take time and, stop cashiering just so he could mention that and acknowledge me and find out what my name was. That was very powerful for me. And it helped me to shift where I had been. It helped me to shift that stuck place that I was kind of, caught in the quicksand. And anybody can get caught in the quicksand. Anybody can get caught in that moment of, wow, I just don't contribute. I don't do enough, or I do something wrong. I just want to get it right. Well, you will eventually. But the only way we get things right is by consistently finding all the possible ways we could do it incorrectly and then correcting them. That is how we move forward. We grow through what we go through. And that's really important to remember, that we grow through what we go through. And during that time of growth, we're going to hit those times where maybe we're not feeling so secure that we're making a difference. And, and I'm not saying this like, like, oh, I want to hear all, and it's okay. It's okay. I'm better now. And part of the reason I'm better is because I remembered some of the stuff I talk about. Honestly, I do. This is unscripted. And I was like, yeah, really? Honestly? The dickens, you say? Why, yes, it is unscripted. And often the reason, I've been asked, it's like, well, why don't you post your topics and post things ahead of time? Honestly, most of the time, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about until the morning I'm talking about it. I do sermons, I do public talks. I may have a particular topic that comes up, But most of the time, it's just right in that moment. Something will happen that it's like, oh, wow, this would be a really good lesson. This would be a really good learning point. Like I said, we grow through what we go through. And as we go through things, as we go through life, as we find that place where we can really feel like we're making a difference, like we matter. And then we get frustrated and we feel like we don't. And it's at that time that a lot of times a wonderful thing will happen where suddenly someone will let us know how much that we mean to them, how important we are. And after all this time of walking and waving and smiling, all of a sudden people are going, yeah, I see you every morning. Yeah, that's so great. Wow, you really, one lady actually said, well, you're inspiring me to get out and start exercising again. And me out there waddling my way, up the road and, down, it's round trip, it's 2 miles. And I'm not exactly in marathon shape, but, I make it in about an hour because also the dog wants to stop and do pit stops and stuff. And anybody who's ever walked a dog, you know how that goes. So it's that quiet moment where I almost feel like I'm not a part of the world, and except for an occasional car going by. Now, I've been alone. I was married for 20 years, and then back in 2005, the marriage ended. And this has been, at that point, I had people who stayed at the house with me at different times. But then about 3.5 years ago, I ended up moving up into the Santa Cruz Mountains. And that was the first time I had ever actually been alone. I had never lived alone before then, not really. And at first it was weird. At first it was unusual for me to be able to, be by myself, because I was so accustomed to being there for other people that when I was just there by myself, it felt very strange. I didn't have anyone to, look over my shoulder or to bounce things off of, well, other than the dog and the cat. And while they're very good listeners, they don't really contribute too much, other than the cat looking at me saying, okay, your lips are moving, but you're not feeding me. What's up with that? And the dog going, I don't care what you say, I love you. There's an old saying, may I be the person that my dog thinks I am. And I just enjoy being able to have that quiet time now. I enjoy the isolation. I enjoy going home and just kind of being in my own space. And I also enjoy people. I get a lot out of public events and social functions and the chance to meet everybody. And when I would do speaking engagements and a chance for you guys to, come, and, there's a lot of folks who oh yeah, I saw you on YouTube, and, and they'll talk to me about it. Or when I had my radio show, they would call up and say, hey, I listened to you, I'm a regular listener. So I like interacting with people, and I like being able to be on my own. But being alone doesn't mean lonely, because lonely can happen whether you're alone or not. And if you can understand, and if you can hold on to the possibility that no matter how alone you feel, you matter to someone. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a dear friend. Maybe it's someone who you just wave and smile at from and they're in a moving car. You matter. You matter to somebody, and you probably matter to more people than you realize. And it's important for us to remember that. We've always got somebody watching over us. Now, that can also be kind of interesting, because not too long ago, I had someone who I was talking to, and we've known each other for a while now, for about a year or so now. She started coming to the church where I'm at. And she mentioned to me that she watched me. And I said, okay. And she said that she's not into the whole, oh, this person's my teacher or my mentor or anything like that. She just said, well, I just watch you. And I watch and I see that what you say is what you do. And you don't just talk about being there for people, you actually are. And I took that as a huge compliment, because I really, when I'm out and I'm doing things, and especially like church functions or anything like that, when I'm being there and I'm interacting with people, I'm really not thinking about it. It's just kind of very organic, and it flows, and it's just that interchange. But she watched me, and she told me that she watched me. She watched how I acted when people were dealing with me, but she also watched me when they weren't. She watched me when I didn't know I was being watched, and she liked what she saw. And I was really so tremendously honored by that, because that's what I want. I want for people to understand that when people are watching you, and you're being watched, and you act a certain way and you behave a certain way, that's all well and good and it's fine. But can you walk your talk when you don't think anybody's watching? When you think no one's paying attention? Because more than likely somebody is. Somebody's paying attention. Somebody's watching. Somebody is saying, okay, are they going to walk their talk? And that's an important thing. That is how we move around through life, is by walking our talk, by being authentic, by being genuine, by realizing we're not alone. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You can be in that space of, I'm going to be all smiles and waving. And even if I'm walking along in the morning and I'm not feeling, maybe I've got some stuff weighing on me, I know that when a person goes by, it's like, you know what? It's not their fault I'm, going through a tough time. And I'm going to give them a wave and a smile anyway, because that's what I would want someone to do for me. If I was feeling kind of down and, and I went past a stranger and they smiled and waved at me, I think I'd feel a little bit better. And when I do it, I felt a little bit better. I felt a connection, because then, I'd see like a little wave back, or maybe they got their hands on the steering wheel and they just kind of, do the little finger wiggle. But still, it was a wave. But I never realized that people were paying that much attention to me. And, it's not about getting paranoid. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm being watched all the time, which, I mean, technically we sort of are. I mean, when you consider that everybody and their cousin can, pick up their cell phone and film anything. And as soon as you go into a store, there's a camera. And as soon as, you go into an event or go anywhere, everybody's got cameras up. You get on a bus, there's a camera. So we're always being watched, but it's not the same thing. This is somebody appreciating you. Maybe you give them a smile. Maybe they're in a grocery store and they're short and they can't reach something, and you not even thinking about it, reach up and hand it to them. It may not seem a big deal to you, but maybe it's a really big deal to that person. Maybe a smile and a wave is a really big deal to that person. And maybe it's a big deal to you. We always have more people caring about us than we know. And even in the times that it's tough to remember that, it's important to keep it in mind, because it's very easy to fall into feeling isolated. It's easy to fall into thinking that nobody really understands, or that, nobody really cares. It's very easy to fall into a state of despair Just because, yeah, when when you look at all the hard stuff and you stack them all on top of each other, yeah, that's a pretty big stack. But when you stack up all the good stuff, when you think about, you know what, I smiled at somebody and they smiled back. Or maybe somebody I didn't even know said, hey, you have a good day. That kind of balances it out. And it makes it a little bit more gentle. And it allows us to be gentler with ourselves. When you realize you've made a difference to somebody, or when out of the blue someone will say, hey, I am so glad you're here. It changes stuff. It shifts the hard stuff off to the side just enough for us to go, you know what, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe I'm doing all right. I haven't got it perfect, may not be pretty, but I'm there. I'm sort of finding my way. None of us get it right all the time. And we learn by messing it up, then figuring, oh, okay, that doesn't work. Let's try this. But ultimately, we get it. Ultimately, it all works out. Ultimately, we learn to take ourselves less seriously and not hold ourselves to such a high standard. Because when we hold ourselves to that high standard, then, we're not going to reach that. We're not going to reach that perfection place. You can visualize it. You can say, the old, when you're firing an arrow, you fire it and you picture it hitting the target before you let go of the arrow, which is good. And I used to do archery, a long time ago. And yes, that is one good tool to be able to do that. But then don't be attached. Once you let go of that, a lot of things can influence. So you just let it go. And let's say it doesn't hit the center. Well, okay, it didn't hit the tree to the left of it. So, all right, we're getting better. Oh, gee, I hit the hay bale. I didn't hit the target area, but I hit the hay bale it's on. And then we learn how to bring the intuition, the visualization, and our body memories and our body mechanics into that place. Because you can visualize all you want, but if you never practice, you're not going to get any better. All you're going to do is visualize. There is that work part that needs to come in. And it's that work part that can get really draggy on us if we try to think we're doing it alone. You're not alone. And for those who believe that there is a consciousness in this universe that actually does care about us, and however you want to define that, you define that however you like. But if you believe in that, then you're going to be okay. If you believe in that, if you believe there is some greater consciousness that says, hey, don't worry, we got this. I got your back. We can do this. If you can allow yourself to believe that, then you know that you're not alone. And if you can't, give it a try. If you can't believe in a consciousness out there, believe in your friends. Believe in the family members who stand by you. Believe in the people that you help who really, really appreciate you. Believe that you're more than what you think. And that when it really comes down to it, everybody's just trying to figure it out. And we all do our best. And there are times when we all walk this road alone. And there's also those times when we get help. But the trick is we're never truly alone. It just feels that way. And we're connected to one another. So don't worry about whether or not you get something right, or whether the parade has passed you by, or if you really matter in this world. I promise you, you matter. And there's probably people very close to you that you matter a heck of a lot to. So take comfort in that. And even though I don't know you, you matter to me. And I mean that. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that that is something that is believed, because I wouldn't say it if it weren't true. You matter to me. And I believe in you, whoever you are. And if you would like to contact me and challenge me on that and say, you don't know me, how could you say that I matter to you and you don't know me? I can explain it, and we can have a discussion about it. And you can always contact me through the Facebook page. You can send me a message through, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube. Lots of ways to send me a message. If you want to reach me, you can reach me. And if you need to hear from someone that, hey, you're doing okay, you're going to be all right, you're not alone, I will be happy to be that person to say that, because I believe it. Right down to my toes, I believe it. And you should believe it too, because it's true. You're going to be fine, because we all have someone to watch over us, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a divine consciousness. We all have someone to watch over us. And that keeps us from being alone. That keeps us from forgetting that we're a part of something so big and so vast, it's beyond our ability to comprehend, all of creation. You are part of all of creation. You're connected to it. We're energy. We are subatomic particles floating around in form. And that's okay, because your particular form has stuff to do. And it's important. And you're going to grow, and you're going to learn, and it'll get better, and it'll get easier, because you're a part of community, because you have people who care about you, because you matter in a way that maybe you haven't considered. And you're the most important person in the world to somebody. Remember that. So, as I check time, I got to put on the glasses to do that. So, as I said, you can contact me through a whole bunch of different ways. And if you enjoyed this video, and if it resonates with you, you can like, share, comment, and subscribe. I love subscribers. And we now have, there's a little chart that talks about all the places. And so now we're in Egypt, Australia, the UK, Mexico, America, and Brazil. It says that people are logging on. So for all of you, hi! And I hope things are well wherever you're at. And as always, I wish you balance, and I wish you blessings from my heart to yours. Love you.